May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord my God. Amen. Please be seated. I find myself again and again saying that it's all about the context. And today is no different. Reading the first 13 verses of Luke 16 in isolation, I believe can lead to some confusion. So we need to look a bit more broadly, to wrap our heads around what appears to be quite an obscure parable that is followed by a set of terse sayings about the place of money. I'm not going to drag us too far back into Luke's gospel, just a little way to the beginning of Luke 15, which determines the context in which the words of Luke 16 are spoken. At the beginning of Luke 15, we hear that the Pharisees and scribes are grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." Jesus' initial response to this grumbling is to tell three stories, to the Pharisees and to the scribes. The parable of the lost sheep, the parable of the lost coin, and finally, the parable of the prodigal son. Each of these stories infers the way in which God reaches out to those who are lost and draws them back into the community, which is a cause for celebration. The parables are about mercy and love and forgiveness and grace and the extent and effort to which God would go to restore people in their relationships. These parables are meant to serve as a corrective to the negativity of the Pharisees and scribes that would exclude tax collectors and sinners. After telling these stories, Jesus then turns to his disciples and tells them a parable. Now we know the Pharisees and scribes are still listening. So I have a sense that Jesus, in a way, is sharing a bit of an inside joke with his disciples, whilst allowing his detractors to eavesdrop on the conversation. And Jesus tells this parable. There is a rich man who had a manager who he thought was not doing a good job, so he decided to sack him. The manager said, "Oh no, what will I do? I'm too weak to dig, and I'm certainly not going to beg." He went off and called together everyone who was indebted to his master. He said to one who owed 100 jugs of oil, or olive oil, to make it 50, and to another who owed 100 containers of wheat, make it 80. Now, when the rich man found out, he commended the manager for his cleverness. I just want to expound on why the master might have commended the manager, and it is tied up with the honor and shame aspects of the culture. By forgiving the debts of the two tenants, the manager would have brought honor to the master, while at the same time providing an opportunity for the tenants to restore their honor within the community. So if this is an inside joke with his disciples, it's about the behavior of the Pharisees. So what if we think for a moment that Jesus is placing the Pharisees and scribes in the place of the master in the parable, which is quite logical, as Pharisees and scribes were at the top of the religious heap in society. So if this is the case, then Jesus is saying to the disciples, "Hey, these guys who think they are my master want to give me the flip because they think I'm managing God's affairs and message badly." And this is where I think Jesus is using a real sense of humor. "Oh no, what will I do? I can't dig or beg," says the manager, says Jesus. No. Jesus has a better plan, and Jesus' plan is God's plan for dealing with the tax collectors and sinners that the Pharisees and scribes have been grumbling about. I'm going to forgive. I'm going to forgive the debts. I'm going to forgive the sins. I'm going to restore relationships which have eternal implications. And he says to the disciples, I want you to do the same. The Pharisees and scribes might want to fire me, but they can't because I am doing God's business and you are part of that too. Now, just as in the story the master commends the manager, I think Jesus is trying to say to the Pharisees and scribes who see themselves as his master, what I am doing brings honor to all of us, to you as well, and rather than grumbling, you should be commending me, who is doing God's will. Paired with the three stories told to the Pharisees and scribes about what had been lost and found, this parable is a continuation of the same thing, of the way in which Jesus was behaving in relationship to tax collectors and sinners. But we haven't finished yet, because hanging off the end of the parable is a group of sayings about faithfulness, dishonesty, true riches, and money, which all culminate in Jesus declaring, "You cannot serve God and wealth." Now, if you look for a moment at this $5 bill, you may or may not realize that this is just a physical piece of paper. Right? It is only a symbol, and technically it's Patrick's symbol. It does not actually contain $5 worth of material. That's probably far less. But we all know that it does, in fact, symbolize $5. But I would argue, based on what Jesus is saying here, it symbolizes more than $5. It symbolizes choices that we can make. It symbolizes how much we value a person. It symbolizes a level of power and authority that we have. So let me share a few examples. First, I recently saw a list of contributors to political parties. Money has authority because there is a reflection of the policies developed by the parties, which is responsive to the creation of money. Second, the amount of money that we are paid is in our market economy in direct proportion to how we as a community value the contribution being made to the person doing it. Money is a symbol of power and authority. And as Jesus implies, we can easily be enslaved by the power and authority inherent in currency. Now, while I have given this part of Jesus a contemporary spin, the reality is that when Jesus said this, he was having a pretty sharp final jab at the Pharisees. Basically saying, you guys might want to have a go at me about who I hang around with, but let's have a look at what you think is important, and it isn't God's people. It's your own power and authority. Now, I spoke about context, so why do we know that this is what Jesus was doing? The context, which we don't read this morning, is the very next line of Luke's gospel. The Pharisees were lovers of money, heard all of this, and they ridiculed him. Luke is reminding us that while Jesus had been speaking to his disciples, that the Pharisees were still there, and Jesus' words were pointed just as much at them as they were the disciples. The drama that had unfolded through the Pharisees' attack on Jesus was Jesus' declaration that God's purpose in him was seeking the lost, was identifying with the lost, was showing them mercy, bringing them home and celebrating God's grace with them. And Jesus had gone on to say, you guys think you are my master, or you can't get rid of me that easily. Because I am bringing God's forgiveness into the lives of many, and this will bring you honor, even though I can see you are not serving God as you ought to, but rather you are pursuing your own wealth as lovers of money. Jesus is all about love, mercy, and forgiveness of God. And this is indeed good news. And the early community, later described by Luke in the book of Acts, tried to free themselves of the hold money held over them by selling everything that they had and sharing it in common. As we know, this way of being Christians, while tried many times and in many ways through the centuries, has never really taken hold. But regardless of our ability to free ourselves from the hold of money over our lives, Jesus continues to stand declaring, I forgive your 50 jugs of olive oil, and I forgive your 20 bushels of wheat. I forgive your sin. Let us be in relationship eternally. The other set of announcements. What's today? Timothy, you up for announcing Pope Theology?
Yeah.
Okay. Surprise!
So the Reverend and I have put together something called Pub Theology. I had experience with this at my former parish in Indianapolis, and the Reverend has had experience with it as well. Basically, we get together at a pub and we talk about theology over beer and pub food. It's great. So that will be starting. It's going to be the second Thursday of every month at Pub 15 here in Bedford at 7 p.m. So we'll have some flyers and things available soon as I print them out. But we would love to have everyone join us. All are welcome. And we'll discuss theology, current events, all that sort of thing. So please do attend. It would be great.
This is a good opportunity for those of you who have people in your lives who you know are spiritual and or would like to talk about things but never want to cross the doors of the church. It is one of my favorite ministries. I have done it at pretty much every single church that I've been a part of. I just believe the atmosphere is different and it allows for a different exploration of your own faith. Vestry meeting this Wednesday, 6:30. Everybody is welcome to attend. You can either attend in person or over Zoom. If you are interested, there is an agenda that we can get you. Yep, there's an agenda that we can get you if you are interested. Confirmation classes are beginning next week. I will be sending out an email. It'll be after Sunday service. We're going to start at a 2-hour mark. We'll see how the conversation and stuff goes. We might be able to shorten it. We might be able to lengthen it. It just depends. So I will be sending out an email, hopefully this afternoon or tomorrow morning, to all those who are signed up already. But if you are interested in confirmation classes, shoot us an email, either at the priest at St. John's of Bedford, or hello at St. John's of Bedford, and we will get that. 2 weeks, we will be at Spring Mill State Park. So for confirmation classes, we will not be meeting on October 2nd. So it's going to be one meeting, break, and then we'll start meeting again. There will be no live Zoom option. We will have a pitch-in following the service, and there's a sign-up sheet in the parish hall if you'd like to bring a dish to share, and the church will provide the grilled meat for the day. And kind of cool, was it last Sunday that was a year? Looking at you.
I know.
Facebook?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so last Sunday, super cool, was actually a year from the very first time I supplied with you guys. So, and then October 2nd is actually our anniversary. We also did Spring Mill the day after we got married. So, it's kind of cool. It's a good celebration. And then after Spring Mill, we will head to Hard Commons for the blessing of the animals at 3 p.m. One more announcement, I think. We are collecting candy to hand out for trick or treat for Halloween, so feel free to bring it into the parish hall at any time. That was a lot. We feel like we went from nothing to boom. So, does anybody else have any other announcements? Do you want to announce Holy Hike, or do you want to give it another week?
We'll give it another week.
Okay. Anything else? Beautiful. Love. Through Jesus, therefore, let us continually offer to God a sacrifice of praise, the fruit of lips that openly profess His name, and do not forget to do good and to share with others, for which such sacrifices God is pleased.